A very good morning to everyone once again. It's wee hours of the morning as per usual, but they say that the early birds catch the fattest worm, so to speak. But there's also a saying, early to rise, of course, derives several and multiple benefits by catching, for example, the fresh breeze that would otherwise be a very smoggy or a very not so palatable atmosphere filled with carbon monoxide because of the prevalence of vehicles and of course the raising of dust because of the activities of humankind, whether it be in industry, the construction of buildings or roads or drains, as the case may be, and that in itself creates some issues with respect to the environment, the dust and the pollution that are not salubrious, are not healthy for human beings. But that being as it may, this is Tuesday. The time is now 2:47. That's in the morning, before 3 o'clock. But of course the ground report will be in Point Fortin this morning, and therefore I'll have to leave in a while. I'm still in my own studio office, so to speak, and I thought it was important to bring you the topic this morning. And today we have 5 days before the 10th of August 2020 general elections, and to appeal to Laventillians in particular here and the wider national community, particularly where the African community resides, whether in Lebre, Faizabad, Point Fortin, and indeed even in San Fernando East, San Fernando West. I'm talking in the context of constituencies as opposed to actual villages, because the villages will transcend and cut across constituencies depending on the size of the population and the boundary parameters inscribed or unveiled by the EBC, the Election and Boundaries Commission. Because this is an election, as far as I'm concerned, of saving our country, but Laventille in particular, saving Laventille and those young persons who have gone astray. And we must accept that as a community. We must know that is so. The elderly in the society who believe that they must pay homage and continuously treat with loyalty to and honor of and a tunnel vision for a particular political organization called the PNM, but are still to come out of the illusion. They are still to be detoxicated from an entity called the PNM that has been invaded, has been polluted by a group of con men and con women, especially after 1986, when the real leaders could not face the population after the decimation of 33-3. Even the Prime Minister, then a leader, Mr. Chambers, could not have saved his seat from the onslaught, the political onslaught of the NAR under E.N.I. Robinson. Then let us look at the historical parameters where all of this has started, and as a consequence of that, Dr. Rowley has come on the scene in contemporary times to lead this party that you, the elders, believe is the same PNM that swept you politically off your feet, so to speak, of your political feet. Guided, of course, and nurtured by Dr. Eric Williams, the father of the nation. We accept that from 1956. The reality is that from 1986, the PNM was no more because of the opportunistic political parasites that has invaded the PNM. Dr. Rowley is the most potent of them. You heard him and you would hear him. How he would talk about women. How really and truly he doesn't have any compassion for the elderly. He doesn't even have compassion for the rank and file of the PNM membership, except for his own political survival and his own political aggrandizement and advancement with those who he has selected. And therefore, by his very nature, has constructed and brought together and superintend over a kleptocracy. A kleptomaniac is one who steals impulsively. You may be offended this morning, but those are the realities, and it's about time that the elderly in the society understands in Laventille East, Laventille West, and of course in those, whilst it would be given those appellation, Laventille East and Laventille West, in terms of the constituency, we know it really comprises of places like Belmont, East Port of Spain, in terms of, and of course it includes the constituency of Port of Spain South, Beetham, Sealats, and we can go on and on, but that is not the issue today. The issue here is about the people who dwell in these spaces. Whether you want to define it geographically, you want to define it sociologically, or you want to define it in the context of the representation of the People's Act, one, and secondly, in the context of the EBC's demarcation for electoral purposes. Irregardless of it, the fact is that all of these communities make up what we call passionately, as far as I'm concerned, Laventille, and the socio-economic and psycho-cultural realities that exist there and the dynamics thereof. Let's not waste time with that. And therefore, I bring to you Karim Beard. He is the candidate, the UNC candidate, let me start off there, the UNC candidate for Laventilles East Movement. Of course, he's contesting with Adrian. Like recently when we went up to Todopuna, the ground report that is, on 104.7 from 6 in the morning to 9, we went up there and they said, Ford, Edward Ford, he is a nice fella. Niceness doesn't cut it. Nice in the sense that not that it has nothing to do with beauty or being handsome or not handsome. It has to do with character and amiability, attitudes. And they're saying that, listen, he's a nice fella and he attends funeral, etc. and parties and wherever, and he will, of course, engage and partake in gastronomic exercises. Gastronomic being filling up the stomach. But that does not cut it in this rounds. It is about delivery. It is about dealing with our crime situation. It is about dealing with our young people and why they gravitate there too. It is about dealing with employment opportunities. It is about the creation of skills and educational opportunities. To do what? So that they can be better citizens of Trinidad and Tobago and not be stigmatized as is the case now. And therefore the elderly in the society, of Laventille, of the Laventilles, must understand that. Share this live, because we are on this morning, Tuesday. Yes. Tuesday let me make sure of that, Tuesday the 4th of August. 5 more days before elections. And I'm appealing here to the elderly who the PNM consistently exploit by a cadre of individuals who wait for this moment every 5 years to come up in your various homes. And if you are elderly, meaning that even if you are sick, and even if you are blind, and even if you have a crooked stick walking with, they suddenly have the capacity, ability, and sense and sensitivity to come up in your home wherever it is and take you to the polling station. You do your duty that you believe that you're doing to a party, an organization that has long lost its effectiveness and has presided over, especially within the last decade or two, the destruction, the deterioration of the social, economic, and moral fabric of Laventille and environment. Dr. Rowley can go up to Laventille, and when he says that to wean off the government, that's what he's doing. In the face of this destructive propensity and tendency and that exists as we speak today, he will say wean off the government when he should be saying the government must now take a serious look at Laventille. Only when Laventille rebelled or was part of that rebellion on the 30th of June, when the whole country, at least the East-West Corridor in particular, was strewn with fire. The scorch of that and the legacy of that is still visible today. If you are a driver and you're driving up the Eastern Main Road, the St. Joseph, what we call Old Road, in Mova, in Belmont, on the hill, you can see the scorch, the black scorch of burning debris, or of burnt debris. Yeah. And that tells us a sad story of what the PNM has done in return for the love and care and support and loyalty to it. If you cannot bring yourself to not vote for the PNM in the interest of those young people and the survival of our community called Laventille and environs, I'm using that term now to include Beetham, Sealots, Belmont, etc. So when I say Laventille and environs, I mean all of those communities that comprise, of course, the two Laventille seats, Laventille East, Laventille West, and Port-au-Spain South. You need to do that. And even Port-au-Spain North, where Stuart Young is supposed to be contested, I think it was Port-au-Spain North, St. Anne's East, or St. Anne's West, whichever. But all of the candidates of the UNC ought to be. And why? You may ask why. And why am I, Lennox Smith, rooting for the UNC at this point in time? Well, I can tell you that very briefly. I can condense what I have to say in maybe 15 or 15 minutes or half an hour. And that is very simple. Those of you who wish to partake in this live cast, you can of course type in on your Facebook page and you will get straight to Alfred John, yes, that page, and you would see, of course, a circular picture with black typing in it, and that is the one. And you will see this and previous cast, because on Sunday I did go to Nelson Street and showed where, for the first time, I've seen in my very expansive and intrusive community activism to treat with the very issues of Laventilles and environs. And when I say so again, I mean East Port of Spain and Silots and Beetham. I cannot overemphasize that, so you'll understand it is spread, and you don't believe that if you would have heard it, whether directly or indirectly, or you're watching this or not watching, but somebody would have told you, and they have been convinced. Because what I am telling you is reality. Why the UNC today? Of course, that will be the question. And why must you deviate from the tradition? But first, let me tell you this. 5 years is not an eternity. Let me repeat that. 5 years is not an eternity. The PNM will have you believe that you must be consistent and never varying, because this small group of persons who are going to benefit, as we have seen with the existence of Dr. Rowley at the helm of the PNM today and government, they will like to make you believe that you will be committing a cardinal sin, a serious sin, a devious sin, if you neglect the PNM one and vote elsewhere. Well, I have tested it. I formed a party dedicated to Laventilles. And here is my explanation. Herein lies my explanation as to why you should vote for the UNC on the 10th, next week, Monday. And if you cannot, don't go and vote. If you cannot bring yourself to treat seriously, honestly, with the problems of the area, whether it be infrastructure, the young people who have gone astray, that guns and ammunition, the order of the day, and to solve problems that they kill each other, and in the process they may well kill you as collateral damage, because if you are entering out of your home, or maybe inside of your home, because bullets penetrate parts of concrete, windows, etc., you may well die. And as all of us know, every single child in Laventilles is always treated to the assumed position when gunfire, and learn, of course, the difference between gunfire and maybe fireworks. So let's waste time with that. We know that. And therefore you know it's to go to the bathroom and lie low. All of that in order to save life and limb, your own. And in some cases, Granny gets killed because of her lack of mobility, given the age of that individual. And therefore they lie there and die. Stray bullets, in other words. So let's not waste time with that. We have to be able to understand that this is upon us. The responsibility is to change. And if those who we have reposed that responsibility in, we have vicariously given them that to do for us, and they have not done it, or they have not done it sufficiently well, or they have performed so poorly, that we have to take it upon ourselves now to effect that change in our best interest. And this is what this life cast is all about. Acting in our best interest and voting in our best interest. That is what has to happen. And therefore when you go to the polls, you must do the right thing conscientiously. Something inside of you must say, no boy, this PNM thing is a waste of time. This PNM thing is to my detriment. This PNM thing has no profit. This PNM thing over the years, especially now, I cannot see how Laventilles could recover or improve. Of course, the PNM activists and mouthpieces will tell you, listen, stay with me. I have been with you, without accounting to you as to why the situation has deteriorated so badly. Whether it's Hines, whether it's Adrian, whether it's the Prime Minister. You must understand, or the PNM operatives in general inside of this community who know where you are. because of a CPEP work or a URP work. Those are the ones that they use. They are less educated. They don't care a damn because it's about survival for them, and that they are attaching themselves to the PNM. Not that they wouldn't get work or they have not gotten work under another party in the past, whether the UNC, whether the NAL. But somehow they believe that they are exercising their democratic right, and that is what the PNM will tell you. But the democratic right that you are exercising has a certain responsibility, and one of which is not to put people in office who would neglect you after you would have done that, signed that contract, and see about themselves. Whether it's Al-Rari, whether it's Young, and don't tell me that you ain't know that. Don't tell me you ain't know that. Don't tell me about that at all. And don't tell me either that you don't know that the UNC, under whether it be Basdio Pandey or Kamla Prasad Bisesa, has done more for us with the resources that were available. We in Laventille and the East West Corridor, more for us than when even Manning was there. When even Manning was there. When you compare the delivery, look what has happened in 5 years under the UNC and Kamla Prasad Bisesa. Dr. Rowley Upton always baffled, is confuffled. It is enigmatic to him. It is a puzzle to him. It is a mystery. It is cryptic. That, listen, it is impossible to construct 100 schools in 5 years. And he said that recently. Notice it is not a campaign issue. It is not a campaign issue for the PNM in this election here. Why? It ought to have been. You know why? Because he was satisfied that not only 100 schools was constructed, but 107 when the final count was made. And I was responsible through the ground report, the radio program on 104.7 from 6 to 9, and you must listen to that. And you'll get the facts. I went and looked at these schools where they were, some of which are being overgrown by bush and thing. In other words, taken over by nature. We don't know if it has snake in it and all them kind of thing, because the grass and trees that have grown on the edges and on the periphery of some of these schools. I saw 2 of them, a primary school and a kindergarten, not too far from the Brian Lara Stadium. But you would have preferred to build or complete the Brian Lara Stadium only because of ego and vanity, and because it was a PNM project, when $1 billion was spent already on that, and all kind of bubble and integrity issues was associated with that stadium. And even when you did it, you gave us the impression with over $100 million. Well, you said 90 million, so let me just be specific here, for avoidance of being criticized, because they wouldn't watch the billion, the PNM activists and so on, but they'll watch the fact that I went past the 90 million that they say it cost. So I'm going to be very specific here, so as to avoid that level of criticism and to leave the most obnoxious and obscene expenditure for something that was only to be costing, I think, about 200 or 400 million. And then the argument that you use that it will be money well spent, according to Dr. Rowley when he came into government, and to finish that, $1.090 billion. Billion before he came in, and he was part of that administration, and now 90 million to complete, according to him. I would be surprised, and you would not be surprised, I'm sure, that if it costs more. And then we heard that ministers' wives were doing power washing and cleaning chairs and so on. But what is significant here is that whether or not it would have brought benefit to us, As indeed when he said that he sent back the Galicia boat and bring what? I say thugs, but it's really a tug. And of course another vessel. All of which cost more than the use of the Galicia prior. Because he believes that anything under the UNC must be disconnected from the conscience of the people, even though it is functionally better, or it was functionally better in terms of service to the people than what he replaced it with. And when we learn the real facts is that he wanted to replace it and replace them for persons we consider to be party hacks and people close to him. So much so that he has regretted that Bay Ferries, the firm that he said take away and sabotage the two passenger ferry, he said that he regret that he sent them away because they were in place by who? By the UNC to service the people of Tobago. And today he is reeling because he will lose both Tobago East and Tobago West because of the evil acts that he has perpetrated on the Tobagonians, he being a Tobagonian himself. People couldn't understand the level of betrayal and the pain and hurt that he put on his own, far less for people in Trinidad. And that is what transpired. They're reeling today from the same thing. And now he has to be visiting Tobago during a campaign when he ought to be relaxing and of course focusing on Trinidad because the majority of the seats are here. He still has to go to Tobago on a regular basis in order to save off the onslaught. The onslaught. The onslaught of the main opposition to him across the Watson Duke and his party. Has to do it. Today in Laventille, the same must be the case. Young Karim Beard, Laventille East Morvan candidate for Laventille East Morvan under the UNC banner, should be the one now qualified, a young man. Look at him, young man. He's all over. Should be the one to be given the opportunity to move Trinidad and Tobago forward, and specifically Laventille East Mover as a constituency, sharing of course with the other candidates in Laventille West, Mr. Stowe, and or in Port-au-Prince South. That is how you should be contemplating now, senior citizens. And those who are not so senior but of voting age and that you will be casting your vote, that is how you should be thinking. Let me get back to why I am supportive of this transition, this monumental opportunity for Laventille to change its political stance, because that has been our death knell, or will be our death knell, and that has been our Achilles tendon. The PNM and their frivolous, but for you, nice, persuasive talk, whether it be Hines, whether it be the Prime Minister himself, whether it be Marlene MacDonald, and look what has happened to her. She took from the poor, according to the allegations made. I'm not casted any aspersion or any judgment confirmed. I'm just saying this is because it is before the court, it is sub judice, the court will determine. But that has been in the air from before she was considered a candidate in 2015. Yes, that was in the air. Those allegations surrounding, circulating around her, and yes, Dr. Rowley embraced her. But that is not the issue. She has to handle her stories. The issue is that the allegations are that she took from Laventille that already didn't have. She took from the people of Port-au-Prince South that already was reeling under poverty, crime, dislocation, poor job opportunities, lack of a serious income to nourish people in an urban environment, in close proximity or the outskirts of the capital city. You need money to survive. And because of good neighborly, in spite of the fragmentation of the community and even families, you still have good neighborly relations and good relations with the business community and so on, that you could still survive, do 2 or 3 jobs in order to make up a sufficiently large salary so you could pay your rent, pay for your children to go to school, pay your water rates, pay your electricity bills. Because whilst in those what we call plannings, those housing development schemes, the monthly rent may be small, but we have people who over time have allowed it to accumulate to the point where it is very difficult for them now to pay the arrears. And it is now left to the magnanimity or the generosity of the AGC to work out a payment plan for these persons who have been delinquent. And it must have been, had to be, that people didn't see that as a priority one, and that with the monies that they would have had to survive on, they prefer to eat. And in some very extreme circumstance, I'm not saying is the case generally, they prefer to engage in activities like entertainment and so on that could not contribute to making certain that you had a roof over your heads. All of that has happened. All of those are some of the dynamics and some of the issues that we have to deal with, but you must act in your own best interest. And so I formed, and let me get back to why, I formed LOVE. See there, LOVE. Yeah, LOVE. And it means Laventille Outreach for Vertical Enrichment. A registered political party, and you will see it's a community-based party dedicated to the Laventilles and Port-au-Prince South. That's what I did. Why? Because I thought that the UNC, any alternative party to the PNM, would not have had the traction and the electability and consideration of the electorate or the people of Laventille and environs. And that is why I formed this, to give you your own vehicle to take you out of the political morass that you have found yourself in. Watson Duke has seen it in Tobago, and he will be successful. Watson Duke has seen it in Tobago, and he will be successful. And as soon as that happens, you know what's going to happen? He will be able, no matter what transpired in Trinidad, he will be able to make certain that Tobago gets a certain types of attention. If he's a serious activist, and clearly he has demonstrated he is. He swam, whether wholly or partially, he swam from Tobago to Trinidad and ended up in Tobago to highlight that. And when I formed the Laventille Outreach for Vertical Enrichment, LOVE party, it was a similar fervor, a similar zeal, a similar vivacious commitment and dedication to the cause of Laventille and the development of the people, because I repose my trust there, because I believe if we could invent the steel pan, we can do other things that other parts of the country will be jealous of. But the PNM was always, because I am not a rich man, and while I may have friends who may give a lending hand in terms of funding and other support to run an election in Laventille against the PNM, is a tremendous outlay of resources. You see those signs and them that you see signs and them have all over the place? Those are thousands of dollars. The advertisers and the printing of them and so on at this time, election time, usually reap a bumper harvest because they know that they have them in their clutches, and they rely on the getting of their message, the parties outside there, and therefore it is a costly exercise. So I wasn't able to compete with that or to match that. But what I am grateful for, that is why I say Karim must be put as the next parliamentary representative for Laventille East Movement and all of the other candidates in Laventille. But my emphasis is on Karim simply because I believe when we look at the statistics from 1986 come back, Laventille East Movement electorate seem to understand that is in their best interest that the transformation must take place away from the PNM and into the camp of another political vehicle that could take them to their destiny. Laventille West is still lagging behind. I don't know why. Because I'm sure that their circumstances, while comparatively speaking, are the same as that of Laventille East. But theirs is a little more tedious because vehicles would come up there. Not even Despers can stay up there. Let's tell you how bad things are. Solo still where it always has been. Ebony where it always has been. Yeah. But Despers, one if not the most famous steel band in the world, had to come down the hill because of the social conditions there that are deteriorating on a daily basis, and yet still somehow Hines and they are able to, and the PNM has been able to tell the people of that constituency, stay with me and I will give you vinegar, poison in return. I will give you a toxic brew of the type that you and all will be able to stay in your own community, and if so, you put up burglar proofing and by yourself, because there is this propensity for people to break down doors and invade people's homes. And the police could do nothing about it because that's a sociological issue for which the police are either not prepared or have not been trained. That is the reality of Laventille. So Laventille East Movement, I bring you Karim Baird, a young man, bright, spiritual man, Baptist community in particular. Good heart, a feel for people, Karim Baird. But that does not say that spread, that infection for a change in Laventille East Mover cannot be transplanted into Laventille West and Port-au-Prince South. The time must come. But if Karim pioneers, then one expect at the end of it all in the next elections, whenever an election comes again, that Laventille West and Port-au-Prince South will be part and parcel of that. Port-au-Prince South did in fact change in 1986. So the potential is also there. But at least one Laventille seat must go to the UNC this time around. Again, why have I, or am I endorsing the UNC? Because when we first conceived and initiated it, this is registered with the EBC, still is. In fact, the role that Love is playing, Laventille Outreach for Vertical Enrichment, is playing in this election, is that when we realized that there was a need for additional polling stations, And the Missouri in Mova, the Missouri Community Center was available and no longer was used. In other words, at one time it was being used as a polling station, but no longer for some time now, for several elections. I wrote the chief elections officer on behalf of Love before nomination day, of course, and asked that that center, having been upgraded and better than most in terms of its upgrade and dedicated to the surrounding community in particular, offering music and others computer skills programs there. And of course that was accepted. My letter to the chief elections officer was accepted, and therefore this year on the 10th, people can go there and cast their vote depending on the polling division to which they belong and to which that center is attached, of course, exclusively the purview and the dictates of the EBC. So I have no control over that except to say that that was available. And why did I do that? Because of the borderline issue that still exists. You know, the fellas have come together as a consequence of the pain and hurt, poverty, impoverished, can't eat, children can't go to school, obviously because of COVID, but have not received the relief that the government said was available to them. Starving, and you're locked down, and you can't work either because they can't go out to work. COVID-19 regulations prohibit that, and with the government with $22 billion, only country in the Caribbean with that kind of money to spend on that, and people can't get things to eat. And you have the hyperbolic statements, bombastic statements, boastful statement, arrogant, only to find out that these monies clearly have not reached those who it was intended. So you're suffering the poor, you're thieving from the poor, abandoning the poor. Because the amount of persons that this has not reached and having the quantum that you have asked for, supported by the opposition, Kamala Persad-Bissessar, only because she believed that it would reach you, the ones who are suffering out there, so much so that there are clusters of individuals who have come together to protest that they have not gotten any. You see it on the social media, coming together, groups, to protest against having applied and haven't gotten anything. Vice Cabinet Robinson Regis will use what in psychology is called framing. One or two examples to say that they're trying to defraud the government, or people want the more than fair share. Send that to the police and give the people their damn money, Camille. That is why the 30th of June occurred. Fiery protests all over the place. It's because people couldn't eat. You're watching the children. The children are there. You're watching them. Hungry belly. Can't eat. That is why that occurred. Understand that. So, Love was formed. Laventille Outreach for Vertical Enrichment. And the vehicle we use, the social or the NGO, if you want to call it that, entity that was used, was Laventille for Laventillians. And I gave you a whole, I should say, compendium of issues and programs, 1,000 pages, which, as I keep saying, I sent to Dr. Rowley at the beginning of his term. I sent it again in July, because when I heard that again, apart from Selwyn Ryan's report on the same issue, he formed this committee, this recovery committee, according to him, headed by a sociologist or a geologist or psychologist, whosoever it is, I don't know. But the fact of the matter is that there was no need for that. We did it ourselves. We saw the problem and we have documented it. And we have identified the areas for immediate and not so immediate concerns, but all in an effort to change the attitudinal norm in the area so that people act in their own best interest. A fundamental opportunity for that has now arisen the 10th of August, next week, Monday. Those of you who cannot bring yourselves to realizing that you must act in your own best interest by now, and you prefer to stay in the bondage, as some people jokingly for me, but very seriously for others, it shows a suicidal tendency, not physically to die, but to not act in your own best interest. That's another dimension. When you say that, let my own bite me, but your own will not only bite you, they will bite you to kill you. And kill you in the sense that they will starve you out, because you have decided to support something that doesn't support you, but supports others and those who are close to the treasury, because we have given them access to the treasury of the country, which belongs to all of us, not just Dr. Rowley and this bunch of opportunistic political parasites. No, it belongs to all of us. And the resources that are being expended on Young family, on Al-Rari family and he. Part of that ought to have been diverted and directed to you to solve your own problems, having regard to the fact that we have developed our own perspective for amelioration. These are the documents. These are the documents. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. And counting. There are more. But we have subdivided into modules to address every aspect and the unique capabilities and existence of resources within the communities that comprise the Laventilles and environs. Beetham has a special opportunity, special resources, whether it be the landfill, whether it be the wastewater lines that find its way to the wastewater treatment plant over the Beetham Highway. You see there, every time you pass on the highway, every one of them have a unique, and of course there's a generic socio-economic and psycho-cultural reality, but all of the various unique niche assets that these communities have, we can put it to use in our own best interest. This is what this is all about. This is what it's all about. Whether it's for Beetham, whether it's for Silas, whether it's for Nelson Street, whether it's for Observatory Street, and all of that. And I want to thank the people, and the young people in particular, on Nelson Street, Besson Street, St. Paul Street, Piccadilly Street, Duncan Street, Observatory Street, for finally realizing that the UNC is not the enemy, but a fervent friend, and one that wishes to assist, and that they can be trusted in spite of the polls that are skewed in favor of the PNM, because they are in office and because the people who are being paid to produce these polls must now pay the what? The person who calls the tune. In other words, the puppeteer, which is the PNM obviously, or people sympathetic to the PNM who have money. So we are not burdened or perturbed about that. But your conscience you must know all of these things in order to do the right thing in the interest of yourself and your community and your physical development and the children and those who are engaged in criminal and poor behavior and will not, even if it is available by the state, gravitate to training opportunities and so on. But we must encourage them. They need the motivation, because if they're going there without a meal, if they don't have the passage to go, if they don't have the clothes to wear in order to look as decent as possible in order to partake, they are going to stay in the community and create havoc as they have been doing. Understand that. This is not a simple task, and this is not a time to be complacent. This is a time to be proactive. This is a time that every single Laventillian must now come to the wheels and understand the issue firstly, and then they know that they have the capacity within to treat with it. And so love was formed. Love was formed. Laventille Outreach for Vertical Enrichment. And up until 2015, when we contested, yes, we contested the 3 seats, Laventille East, Laventille West, and Portsmouth South in 2015. We still believe that the UNC did not have the acceptance, the wherewithal. I'm talking here politically, not that the actions in government did not assist us more than the PNM. Yes, it did. But in terms of the political preference, so as to dip your hand for them, you still up to 2015 was saying, listen, let me own bite me. But even when your own created a party for you, you did not support love either. So it means, therefore, that inculcation, that brainwashing of the PNM having been in office for so long and you have been voted for them for so long, you believe that you must stay there. But in doing so, you are creating, because they have not changed. They have not changed. They are not nice people who populate that party, especially now. They're not. They are unchangeable clearly. And you must now change in your own best interest. So when you go to the polls on the 10th, next week, Monday, and people come for you in the usual way, you go to the polls. Nobody could know that who you vote for, you know. That's old talk. You could tell them who you're going to vote for. Nothing wrong with that. If you so desire, they ought not to ask, but you could say that. And then you go to the polls and you do what is best for your community. As night turned to day, I keep saying that, and vice versa. Property tax will come in, even though Dr. Ori is saying no in his manifesto. I've not yet seen it, so we'll talk about it closer to the election. But the fact of the matter is that I'm certain that he is going to generate some kind of palatability for property tax, even though he, in 2009, when he was opposing Mr. Manning, said that is the most dastardly thing could happen. In fact, he used the term dreaded tax, property tax. And then he accepted in 2015, when he was pronouncing and announcing the manifesto of 2015 of the PNM, he said, listen, Kamala Prasad Bisasa and Larry Hawaii, the then Minister of Finance, reverted to the land and building tax, which is something we have been accustomed to. So it's not that we don't want to pay tax. It's not that the argument that Dr. Rowley puts that people must pay tax, suggesting that land and building tax was never being paid or was not on the agenda or part and parcel of the tax regime in this country. That's what he would try to make you believe, and therefore every country must pay tax in order, and then he broadens the argument to bamboozle you. I always say that he is doing that as the killer, as the murderer, who will deliberately push a dagger in your heart and tell you, take it, and he pushing it more, and it's good for you, take it, you wouldn't die. And when he pulling it out, he tell, even if you didn't die then, pulling it out and saying, look, it's still good for you, take it, look, I easing up the pressure, take it. And eventually the inevitable happens. You must die. So I want to be as graphic as possible this morning to make you understand the role and responsibility you have to people who have put themselves on the line. Young Karim Beard. You vote for him on the 10th, Laventille East movement. And I would advise that Laventille West forget Hines and his hyperboles and his dogmatic statements and his arrogance, and believe that you are there to serve him and not vice versa. And afterwards he run from the hill and put his office down on the flat because he wants to escape what is usually considered to be the Mecca, the symbol of Laventille, because the symbol of Laventille is always the hill because of Despers. And like Despers, maybe he had to run, but that is significant as far as Hines is concerned, because it's damn good if he had to run. Mean that next time he will probably run beyond the swamps and into the Gulf of Paria, and nothing wrong with that, because he was able to run out of the swampy water in the Betum. But he was moving, he was moving north into the hills. No, he should be moving south to the Gulf of Paria. That's what he should be doing, and forever disappear for the kind of disrespect and disservice and betrayal and hurt and pain, agony that he singularly has deceived the people into somehow accepting. He had the Ministry of Works, you know. He had also the Ministry of what? Public Utilities, you know. And therefore, he was also a cabinet minister. And therefore, could have taken the special circumstance of the Laventille people across the board to these ministries and get job opportunities. The few that got, if at all, because I know of none, but I know that one or two will say so, you would see that they are either connected directly to him for political connectors. But in terms of persons in general, we have a pilot right now, a young man who is training to get his pilot's license. He needs $33,000 right in Mova, and is unable to get it because of the parents' inability to afford. These are the kinds of projects I expect that a parliamentary representative for the Laventilles will not only be attracted to, but find ways and means of addressing. I am not. And look, I did something with respect to a political party dedicated to Laventille. I also founded the MLI, the Mova Laventille Trade School, that trained over 6,000 young people between 1984 to 1999, thereabout. By the very PNM, just like what Christopher is now experiencing, orchestrated to destroy for the lack of funding, and in the case of God Christopher in Mova, because it's a state building, evicted him, just as what happened to Archbishop Burke in Mova as well, the children's home. Evicted as well, totally oblivious and insensitive to what is happening inside of there and how it would have configure, for want of a better term, the minds of these young people as they access more and more opportunities. It means, therefore, it will be less and less crime, criminality, delinquency, and disillusionment. That is what would have happened if all of these institutions, born of the people, for the people, to serve the people, was still in place. The churches, especially Baptist churches, in every nook and cranny, ought to be focused upon to make timely and real-time intervention to avoid the catastrophe, the human tragedy and catastrophe that is today's Laventille. As I said, whether those parts of Laventille being Mova, Beetham, Sealetts, Belmont, etc., that's what I consider to be that geographic Laventille. So I've expanded the geographic boundaries, but the socio-economic and psychocultural circumstances are the same for some time now. And you have a duty on the tent, you have an opportunity on the tent to say, listen, 5 years is not an eternity. Don't Hines give me that kind of hogwash, nor Adrian, nor the candidate for Port of Spain South, nor even Young in Port of Spain North, St. Anne's West. No. You must be smart. You must be intelligent. You must think with respect to what is happening now and how the future will be. And you will see that these people are toxic. The PNM is toxic for these communities. And you must go to the polls with a conscious mind, knowing full well that they have done harm to us. And so you have an opportunity to remedy that. Because let me tell you something. UNC will win the elections. It's whether or not you are on board, because the prize, this is politics, the prize, the person who made their contribution, and they made it positively, meaning that they contributed to bringing the UNC into government. Those constituencies will be angry with the UNC if after they won election and turn to help Laventille to the detriment of those who actually put them in office, you know. Yeah, that's how it works. The real example of that is this. The real example of that is this. That when the PNM gets into office, with the help of the Laventilles, they go and they assist that 1% group of persons who are benefiting from the PNM across the ethnic spectrum, not just Syrians alone. You have Indians, you have Africans, you have Chinese, etc., benefiting from it. But they leave you out all entirely. Because we have been complacent and we have not made any demands as a consequence of that. And we only make demands when things are as bad as it was leading up to the 30th of June, when fiery protests that ought not to be. Clearly there is a leadership issue as well. Clearly there is a leadership issue on both sides. On the side of the PNM and the side of the Laventille. Leaders that don't have the testicular fortitude like myself to stand up to them. Hardly have any. And then they cow when the time comes to really make a difference. I've seen it, I've experienced it. And then you have a leadership problem on the side of the PNM itself, who see you as a voter bank and nothing else. And that is all you must be contributing to their existence today. That is the reality. So, again, Laventille saw its problems and decided to form a political entity. The UNC, as I said, up to 2015, I considered not to be a viable, electable entity politically in Laventille. And between 2015 and today, boy, Kamala Prasad Bisesa really worked. I am not easily impressed. But I'm satisfied now that the UNC is the vehicle, the alternative vehicle to the PNM, that we must now take, hop on board to our natural destiny of contributing to the society by the transformation thereof. And once that transformation takes place and the murders have subsided and become expected, as with any society or any community in the world, in other words, no threat to tourists, no threat to investment, no threat to domestic capital input by way of business development, physical presence in Laventille. But there's no threat to that. We're going to naturally form part and parcel of the advancement and development of Trinidad and Tobago as a nation and a state. That is the vision. That is what is possible if you, the elderlies in particular, go to the polls and tell the PNM, listen, enough is enough. I will vote this time around for the UNC because 5 years is not an eternity, and therefore next 5 years, if the UNC did badly, then I will do so. But you cannot say that you're born a PNM and you will die a PNM. That is not a basis for voting. You cannot say that let my own bite me because it has bitten you to the point where we are on our dying beds. You cannot say that. That is suicidal. Therefore, when you go to the polls on the 10th, next week, Monday, you must do your duty and understand it's a revolution and will be part and parcel of that cadre of constituencies that have voted. And guess what? I will be working like a overburdened tractor, loyal to get every single thing that Laventille demands and wants, because it would have done its duty by accessing the treasury as everyone else, because it voted for a government, the UNC, Kamala Prasad Bisesa, in its best interests. And because of the historic nature that victory will be, I'm sure that we can attract almost immediately foreign attention and foreign resources, whether it be capital meaning money, whether it be friendly relations and exchange, whether it be educational opportunities in universities abroad and other institutions, whether it be academic training or vocational skills training. We will be able to attract expertise in the environment and how to treat with a program for tourists, community tourism, if you want to call it that, because of the rich cadre of heritage that we have there, physical and otherwise, whether it be Fort Picton. Fort George is on the other side, but Fort Picton Fort, and the other fort further up the road. All of that could be part and parcel of that transformation, a new day, a new dawn for Laventille. If the old, if the senior, if the old, the young, the indifferent will now do their duty and go to the polls on Monday and vote in favor of the UNC, and that the beginnings of the transformation process, because it will be historical, and for that alone, I am certain Kamala Prasad Bisesa and the UNC will be grateful, and there will be an outpouring of resources to transform the individuals from cradle straight up to even the quality of graves that we have That is the confidence that I have. If we would have won, that is why this was formed. It might have been an idea before its time. I don't know. Because I'm certain that if it is, that this remains, and the UNC has captured Laventille, they will have to consider the role of love and persons like myself in the whole process, having regard to our dedication and our steadfast commitment to Laventille over the years in terms of positive development. Not negative, positive development. So, I can only implore, and I'm asking you again to vote for Karim Beard, a young man, a teacher like myself, very, 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 very articulate, very spiritual. Maybe that is what we want now, to begin the process of transformation of Laventille. I don't think I have anything else on that score except to say that we have a golden opportunity to create history. The young people are behind it, and I want to say again, I am pleasantly elated to see yellow all over East Port of Spain, Laventille, and so on. After a time when it was taboo, almost, when it was not fashionable. It is not fashionable clearly, but it's not fashionable to put on a UNC jersey, far less to hang up a flag that will not be pulled down. I saw in Belmont the entire Valley Road strewn with P&M, those large flags, of course, the center of which has yellow, so they're promoting UNC anyway. But there was a singular flag near the Chinese restaurant, and it remained there, but lower than the rest. The P&M flags were high up, so people cannot pull them down. This flag was just about 1.5 meters high from the ground, easily accessible, but in an abandoned lot, flying there by itself. And guess what? No one touches it. No one touched it. And I saw that as a significant symbol of the emerging dominance and emerging acceptance of the UNC. Share this live. Share this live. And type in, of course, with your friends if you have to communicate, Alfred John. And then you will see, of course, a picture with black typings, and you click on that, and of course you will get this along with others of the past, so that you have an appreciation as to what Laventille is, because these lives are also to give you some perspective as to what is required for Laventille's transformation. And this will reach, of course, others in authority, and it will be used, of course, to demonstrate that before the 11th, we were talking development in a significant way. Significant way for all of Laventille, all parts of Laventille and environs, and of course, along the east-west corridor as well. That is what we are talking about. All of this and more. All of this and more. All of this and more. So see you on the next occasion. The ground report is on, or is in, well, beyond Labre. We are there, and this morning we will be beaming from that tongue. You remember the highway moves from where? From the bay straight into Point Fortin. So we are in Point Fortin this morning from 6 o'clock. So you can view us, listen us, because we are on Real TV as well, Real Media TV, on online, Facebook, and and of course YouTube. So we are in Point Fortin this morning from 6. So see you then. Time check is just about, let me make sure what time it is. We come in 4 o'clock. And I will have to leave in just about 15 minutes because I'm leaving from Port of Spain to get down there. And I love to be on time for these outreach and outside cast of the ground report on 104.7. We go up to 9 o'clock, and after that, of course, we are on social media, Real Media TV, 1 hour after that, so we are there until 10 o'clock. So see you then. And once again, you have an option now. The UNC is now electable. The UNC is now acceptable. And therefore, the PNM cannot believe that it has dominance over you with glib, deceptive old talk, but without any delivery. Our circumstance has, at present, has demonstrated a cumulative neglect, all of which has been the result of a PNM dominance politically of Laventilles and environs. See you then.